All right, we'd like to welcome you into our very first Terriers Together podcast via Zoom and video and all that good stuff. I'm Tom Henson. I finished in 1996, and I work in the engagement office. I work mainly with parents, but also do some stuff with our alumni, and looking forward to today's first venture into this, in which we're going to take advantage of the month of February with Black History Month and talk to a couple of our alums who have been very influential in their work, but also very important in their volunteer work for Wofford. And I'm really happy to have Monique McDowell and Joseph Bias with us. And so, guys, what I want to start with is just a little bit about who you are and where you're from, what you're doing in your career. And as always, we're going to go ladies first. So Monique, just tell us a little bit about what you're up to these days.
So I'm Monique McDowell, class of 1992. My hometown is Columbia, South Carolina. Currently, I'm living and working in Atlanta, Georgia, where I practice law as an employee benefits attorney.
And love the traffic, right?
Well, you know, I haven't been in traffic in about 10 months.
Oh, working from home, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're glad to have you with us today, Monique. Joseph, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Joseph Bias. I currently live in Columbia, and I'm from here as well. I graduated Wofford in 2006, and I'm also an attorney. I am the general counsel for Midlands Technical College, which is a college here in Columbia.
Well, again, thank you guys, both of you, for being with us today. And Monique, what I wanted to start with you is tell us a little bit about how you ended up at Wofford. Think back to your college search experience and why Wofford for you?
Yeah, I have to think back pretty far, being that I graduated in 92. It's gotten to that point where I actually have to reflect. But like most people search, I applied several places. I applied at colleges and universities with different historical backgrounds and different regions, different sizes. And I had sort of a lot of things working in favor of Wofford. A friend from high school really encouraged me to consider Wofford. The director of admissions at that time, Charlie Gray, was very influential in helping facilitate my participation in the Wofford Scholars Day program. And my parents, I don't know if they would remember this, but they actually visited upstate and returned to Columbia with a Wofford sweatshirt. So that kind of was an indication of which way they wanted me to lean. I visited the campus, spent time with students, really liked the students I met and interacted with, and loved the campus. And then the rest was pretty much Terrier history.
Oh, that's great. Joseph, what about you? How did you end up at Wofford?
Yeah, I remember when I was applying and looking around, I had just kind of made up my mind that, you know, for financial reasons, I was going to stay in state. And I was looking around, and I had actually paid my deposit to go to Clemson. And I paid it, and that was going to be my last college visit. But I got something in the mail because I think of my test scores from Wofford, and they had the night and day program. So I said, well, I'll just go. And I came, and the first thing I remember was how pretty the campus was. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I hope the people aren't nice too. And then of course I go, and everyone's nice to me. And, you know, I got kind of walked around, and I think in my night and day program, they told us that 3 of the 5 Supreme Court justices at the time were Wofford grads. And so I had my little flip phone at the time. I called my mom from Wofford. I was like, look, you're going to be mad, but I think we just lost that deposit to Clemson because I kind of have to go here. And she understood. And it just kind of went from there. The funny thing is, the next year, I was so enthusiastic about Wofford, where I was like, no, give me a night and day student. I'm going to show them. And the person who was with me for night and day the next year ended up coming as well, and is actually one of my best friends. So there you go.
That's great for both of you. I've noticed behind both of your shoulders, Old Main pictures or portraits or whatnot. And so I want to talk with you about your experience as students. I mean, of course, I think everybody that comes to Wofford has a unique experience and has a unique story. But Monique, what do you remember about your student experience? What stands out to you about your time at Wofford?
So I would really describe my time at Wofford as just outstanding. And I would say overall, it was outstanding. Of course, there was the academic rigor that we expect from Wofford. That was a formative period. So just the interpersonal development, interpersonal opportunities, I still look back on those moments and cherish those. And campus life activities, I think I participated in every type of campus life activity at Wofford. Everything from the fencing team, and to this day, some of my favorite cocktail conversation is that I lettered on the fencing team at Wofford. They were kind enough to let me join the gospel choir. I couldn't sing, it was more social, but I was on the gospel choir. I interacted with folks through a lot of volunteer projects that were hosted by the college. Just AAAS, the Association of African American Students. I was fortunate enough to have a leadership role in that organization. And there was actually a Wofford dance team while I was there, and I was on the dance team. So you name it, I really fully engaged in campus life and had a wonderful experience. And I would like to say, when I say overall, I mention overall because I believe that for students who are there now and maybe going through a tough period, say the stressful exam period or some sort of awkward conflict that you're trying to resolve, sometimes it seems like those moments will never end, but I remember those as well, the tough times. But overall, it was really a wonderful experience that I'm very happy that I had, and I would not change a thing.
What about you, Joseph? What do you remember from your time as a student?
It was definitely unique. My high school had a very different makeup than Wofford demographically, so it was a unique adjustment for me. My freshman year, I was the only minority male who didn't play a sport. So my freshman year, I'll just fully admit, was kind of lonely because I was still getting used to the community, getting used to being around individuals who looked different than me. But as I kind of got familiar, I'd say starting my second semester on, and I really started, like Monique said, leaning into the student life at Wofford, it really became a sports marketing department. So I would be the one at games throwing out t-shirts at halftime and stuff like that. I really knew even then that I wanted to get into law. So I think I was I don't know if it was the first team, but I think it may have been the first mock trial team for the school, which I did all 4 years. So I really enjoyed kind of doing different things and branching out. And like I said, once I graduated, Wofford and my Wofford education kind of gave me a leg up on, I think, other individuals, especially. And I found that out when I went to law school.
You mentioned something that struck me. Being a minority student who wasn't an athlete. And I
Right.
think that's an overlooked group sometimes on our campus. You mentioned first semester really being a struggle. What got you through that semester? What kept you from transferring somewhere else, maybe where there were more people like you?
So that's an interesting question. It was it's almost kind of a belief in the process. I knew that there were individuals who, in the class before me, who were kind of similar to me, because I mean, if you've seen me, I'm not an athlete and I don't look like it. So I kind of had faith that it would all work out in the end. And I mentioned the night and day student. Essentially, that was my pitch. Like, look, I need for you to come here because you don't look like an athlete either. I need for you to come here so I can have somebody to hang out with. And that kind of, and it's weird, but it kind of started a community where, not just necessarily minorities, but other folks who, didn't pledge or aren't athletes. They're kind of hanging out there. And those are the individuals who I first made friends with, where, okay, well, if you aren't going to a rush thing and you're not going to practice. Well, what are we doing? Well, let's hang out. Let's do something. And so that kind of made it a little bit easier to get through. And when you have a small campus like Wofford, there's not, sometimes that creates a more intimate bond with people. And that's essentially what allowed me to, or encouraged me to stay.
Great. Monique, do you have any professors that stand out, your favorites that you remember, that certainly alums would remember as well?
Well, the professor that stands out is Dr. Seegers, who was over the psychology department. But the people who stand out most were actually administrators. Dean Kaiser Thomas.
Yeah.
And to this day, I always have a candy dish in my office. Since I've had an office, I've done that because it just left an impression on me that anytime I wanted chocolate Hershey's miniatures, I could go in his office and get it.
Yep.
Dean Michael Preston. Those were two of my favorite and folks who always had an open door. I will mention even from the financial aid department, someone who I developed a relationship with, but I haven't spoken to her in quite some time, but Susan McCracken. So there were a lot of people in all departments on the campus that really left an impression on me. And those are just a couple that I mentioned.
What about you, Joseph? Any folks on campus stand out to you in your memories?
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention John Fort. He's the pre-law advisor. I think he's still there. There was no reason for him to kind of take me under his wing and answer all my weird questions about law and, help me out as far as internships and stuff. But, that's one of the things that kind of sets Wofford apart, where you can have that personal connection, have that relationship with somebody. So he's really the one that stood out. There are times I think Monique would agree, and anybody considering law, that you're thinking about it and, it can be daunting, or the LSAT can be daunting, and, to have that encouragement really helped out. And Brand Stilley was the other one. I did not know Wofford before I met Brand. I actually met him at Palmetto Boys State. And he, I think, was volunteering to do some work there. And that kind of opened up my eyes. And I really felt that he was looking out for me and watching out for me. And, one of the appreciated things for the college decision is, how are you treating the parents? How are you treating the mom and the dad? And, between Brad Stilley and Dwayne in the security office, my mom was so comfortable with me going to college, because she said, well, and she'll tell people to this day, oh, go to Wofford, they'll take care of you. They watch out for you. So I think that was perfect. It was great. And those are folks I remember.
And Tom, I have to chime back in.
Yeah,
because,
do please.
Blame this one on my head and not my heart, but absolutely Reverend Talmadge Skinner.
Yes.
So he was awesome. And the volunteer projects that I mentioned earlier, a lot of those were organized through his office, and had a wonderful relationship with him for many years, even after I graduated and he retired. So,
yeah, I think Talmadge is one of the most beloved
right.
Wofford staff members, Wofford alums of all time. So I'm glad you mentioned him. I mean, he certainly has a special place in my heart as well. How did you guys pick a major, and then how did Wofford prepare you, for both of you, for law school and your careers? Monique, we'll start with you again.
So it took quite a while for me to choose a major. And I guess you can say that's the beauty of a liberal arts college. But I at one point thought I would be a psychologist, and I did ultimately major in psychology. And I decided, and we can maybe do another call about what labs discouraged me from continuing in graduate school. But fortunately, I had also considered law and went to some on-campus interviews, and the two top choices, I actually interviewed with them at Wofford, and ultimately decided on Washington and Lee in Lexington, Virginia.
What about you, Joseph?
Yeah, I came in knowing I wanted to be a lawyer. It was more of a, well, what avenues will help me get there the best. I was not a math and science guy. And in fact, I remember taking the study of patterns, which was basically math for English majors. And I was like, score, that's me, I'm all there. But one of the, I guess, things that kind of helped me out at Wofford was, you know, there is a definitely a vibrant legal community in this state in South Carolina of Wofford grads. And I mentioned before, at the time, a lot of the Supreme Court justices were from this little small school in Spartanburg. So when you go into a meeting or you go into an interview and you have the Wofford on your resume, it really does help. And it's kind of like, and I told somebody this last week, it's kind of like being in this weird fraternity, but it's just a college. So I the way Wofford helped me out the most was maybe opening some doors that if I had gone to another school wouldn't have been there. Like if I had gone to USC or Clemson, I'm just one of the hundreds of people applying for a job that went to USC or Clemson. If I go to Wofford, well, maybe the person who is reading the resume who also went to Wofford, maybe they give me an extra call, or they know what I had to go through academically to get to that point. The other thing is, once you're in law school, having gone through the vigorous Wofford education really helps with all of the reading and writing in law school. So it definitely helped prepare me. And, I felt like I had a leg up when I went into the next stage of my academic career.
That's great. I kind of want to shift gears a little bit, and it is Black History Month. And one of the things I think Wofford has always, has tried to do better with is how do we connect with our Black alumni? And both of you have been volunteers in the alumni office and helped with engagement. But Monique, what do you think, or how can Wofford connect better with our alums of color?
Well, I guess it's a tough one for me because the connection has been very consistent since I left. But what I'll say is keep doing what you're doing right. And that's connecting, developing relationships. I love that folks from the development office call me up when there are new people in the office. They'll call me up if they're in Atlanta. They come by, they say, let's do lunch, let's grab coffee. Ask. Jordan asked us, to participate in this call today. And I think that's what you should do with all alum. If there's a specific need, just be very direct about what you need from alum. And then don't be discouraged if the first time there's a no. Circumstances change, people's feelings about, whatever the request is might change. Timing can have a huge effect. And I've said this to others, and I'll say it today, your future loyal, faithful alumni are students today. So be invested in the student experience, maybe be a liaison, an advocate, a voice, an open door to help make sure that they're having as fulfilling a college experience as they can, and they'll be your loyal alum.
That's great advice. That's great information. What about you, Joseph? What do you think?
I think that's a difficult question. And I don't know that there's an easy answer. Like Monique said, having alumni involved is certainly an answer. I really appreciated this past year in 2020, the conversation and how it seemed like the administration was willing to listen to the concerns, not only of current students, but of alumni when, dealing with all of the issues that were going along in the world with the Black Lives Matter movement and the murder of George Floyd. So I think that that's so important that there has been leadership on those fronts. And I think that those type of things will increase the involvement of Black alumni, because it lets us know that, our opinions matter, our voices matter. We don't have to hide the fact that Wofford is not now and probably will never be a majority minority school or a majority people of color school. And that's okay. But what helps is that if you let folks know that, look, just because you aren't the majority at the school doesn't mean that you don't matter. And I really appreciate the efforts that Wofford is making to try and have those difficult conversations, to try and give a platform and a voice to students now. Man alive, I was involved in some of these meetings over the summer, and the students now are impressive. They are organized and they know exactly what they want. And those are the type of things that as an alum makes me excited. And I say, you know what? These are the type of, if Wofford's investing in these students, then I want to invest in Wofford. And look, I do not know another Wofford alum, individual, Black, white, or other, who, if you called upon them to talk about Wofford, if you called them to sell a student on Wofford, to mentor a student, that they wouldn't do it. I mean, we all kind of went through the same thing. And I think for the most part, we all have positive experiences. So like Monique said, if you call on us, we're there. It's just a matter of, making the call.
I think that's both well said by both of you. And I think it's important for all of us alums to remember that somebody opened the door for us, or as Monique said, left the door open for us to come visit or come talk. And it's important for all of us to remember to do that for our current students moving forward, because that only strengthens our school. One of the things Wofford has always prided itself on is our community and embracing as unified a community as we can get. What does that mean to you? What does a unified Wofford community mean to you? What would you like to see in a unified Wofford community as we move forward, hopefully out of this pandemic and into some new times where maybe it is a new normal? Monique, what do you think?
So when we think about a unified Wofford community, I think about what is it that most of us can agree upon. And that's what Wofford does and how it does it. Educating in the liberal arts, doing it in a community that's relatively small, low student faculty ratio, predominantly a residential environment. We can agree that we really want the legacy of Wofford to continue, and that Wofford should remain relevant and a leader in academics. And that the tiny Boston Terrier is actually pretty mighty. Like, those are the things that we can but then when we start dealing with those topics, issues that can seem divisive, what we can reflect on is the legacy, and that it must continue, and that our relevance must continue. And so that means we have to evolve. We have to make change. We have to think progressively. So I think we can be unified in some areas and understand that there's certain things that we have to do to change and to be progressive, which means that it might not look exactly the same. We might not do things exactly the same, but at our core, we're very committed to what Wofford stands for.
I think that is very well said, and I think admissions may want to use that at some point, because that was really, really good. Joseph, good luck following that.
Yeah, I don't have I certainly can't be as eloquent and articulate myself that well, but I think she's absolutely right. If we can all agree on certain things, and we all have our common bonds, and I think having a unified Wofford community just means strengthening those bonds, encouraging those bonds. And the other part of that is weeding out things that aren't representative of the college. And is that easy? Of course not. And in these days and times, it may be even more difficult than when I went or when you guys went. But I think it's necessary. And ultimately, the benefit and the reward for that work is phenomenal. And you get a stronger, more unified community.
I think you both have nailed it. And you kind of led me to thinking that, no matter what our skin color, our religious makeup, or our gender, or our orientation of anything, we have more in common with each other than we do differences if you went to Wofford, because it is a small place. And I think we all went there for similar reasons, again, no matter what your background is. And so that's what connects all of us. And I think that's extremely important for all of us, alums, parents, current students, to keep in mind. Kind of as we wrap up, I wanted to give you guys a chance. What would you say to current students? What kind of advice would you give them as they're going through their time right now? And it has been a different year, but in general, what advice would you give to a Wofford student as they're in the middle or embarking on their Wofford experience? Go ahead, Monique.
I would say that these are the formative years. These will likely be among the best years of your life. So fully take advantage of it. Take advantage of what the college offers, what campus life offers, and just really extend yourself. You will never have permission like you have now to discover who you are, what matters, how loud you want your voice to be. So take advantage of being in that environment to just grow and develop. Continue being courageous. I think we've seen a lot of very brave voices, and it may be uncomfortable to hear what students are saying they experience, but we need to hear it so that we can get it straight, so we can fix it. There were folks who were before us, whose shoulders we stand on, who did it for us and keep speaking up and speaking out. And at the same time, find the moments when you can really have a fulfilling Wofford experience. So, and call on alum. We don't necessarily reach out like we should, but call on us and let us know what we can do to help you.
Great advice. Joseph?
Yeah, see, the problem with going second on all these questions is, she's too good. No, I think the main part is to continue to be bold. People don't go to Wofford. That's not necessarily a safe choice for a lot of folks. So if you're going to Wofford to begin with, it's usually a bold decision. So continue to make those bold decisions on campus. Go to a study abroad program that maybe you wouldn't have gone to, or take a class that that scares you or something, because those are the type of leaders that we want as you come out of Wofford. Monique's absolutely right. It's nothing to send an email or a LinkedIn request to an alum, because 95% of the time, I'm sure they're going to want to help you and be excited to hear from you. So yeah, those are my main things. But the number one thing that I think students should know now: appreciate interim. Okay, appreciate interim now. You will miss it when it's gone. I promise you. Take the weirdest class that you can in interim. Do the weirdest. Just appreciate interim, because when it's gone, there is no other time in your life where you can do one thing for a month.
I've always said there's no interim in the real world, and that's
right.
Because there should be that month where you can do something totally unique. Joseph, show your cufflinks.
Here we go. Have the Wofford cufflinks today for special for you guys.
Thank you.
We appreciate that, and I just want to thank both of you for your time, for your talents that you share with Wofford, for everything that you do for our college. I think this has been a very productive first step in one of our Terriers Together podcast via Zoom and video and all that good stuff. So thank you to both of you guys for being part of the inaugural one of these. For those of you that are watching, give me some feedback. Let us know what you think. You can email me. It's Henson, HENSONTM, @wofford.edu. So again, let us know what you think. Let us know some ideas that you have for future ones of these, and we'll we'll continue trying to get some stuff out to our alumni and students and parents and letting them know what's going on. But again, Monique, Joseph, thank you very much. And everybody out there, be well and go Terriers.
Go Terriers.
That's right.